Hello and welcome to this episode, Mind, Body, Spirit, How Energy Healing Supports Mental Health. I'm Wendy De Rosa. So glad you're here. And if you're enjoying my podcast episodes, please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, whether you're seeing it on YouTube or listening on a podcast. That helps people find it and learn from this material. So today I'm going to dive into the intersection between mental health and energy healing. And what I'm sharing today is by no means a replacement for any type of therapeutic support or mental health services that might be necessary and needed. My background and experience is coming from thousands, working with thousands of people as an intuitive energy healer, and also being a teacher of intuition, in which I have a high number of therapists as students and clients over the years. So they're therapists who have been looking for a deeper understanding, and for whatever reason, how I communicate energy healing and intuition seems to straddle, therapeutic understanding and psychotherapy, and it straddles, energy healing and metaphysics and intuitive development. So that's just been sort of a natural way that I teach in some of the concepts. So I've had a lot of therapists find a lot of grounding in this particular information that I've taught over the years in my training programs. So what I'd like to first talk about is what energy healing is. And so where it comes from, the premise of it is that we are made of energy all the way down to the nucleus of the cell, which is energy in the body. And that energy carries a lot of information. The cells carry a lot of information. The nucleus carries a lot of information about the genes and about what we come into this world with. The intersection starts there because as a soul coming into this human experience, meaning born into the womb and into our human form, our soul informs also the consciousness of the cell. So that means the genes, that means from energy healing perspectives, that means soul history, which can be intergenerational, which can be past life, which can be a lineage energy that we come into this world with, and we'll carry that within the cells of the body. And as we evolve and grow and develop as a human being, that information that we're carrying on that cellular level is energy that our soul carries and comes forward into this world. And sometimes that energy is also not just where we came from or what we experienced on a soul level or what our history or ancestral lineage might be, but it's also informs what in energy healing we'll say our blueprint, our dharma, or the path, the potential that we are here to manifest in this life. Very complex, a lot of information down on the soul level in that intersection. So energy healing is based on the premise that we're made of energy, and that our body, comprised of all, thousands, billions of cells, carry energy that might be working for us, meaning it's supporting the health and well-being of who we are, or we might be carrying information that no longer serves us. We'll say it that way. It might be old emotions that need to be processed, that didn't get processed. I'll come back to say more about that. There also might be energetic blocks that show up in the body. Those might be, again, emotions. They might be life experiences that we've had that are leaving an imprint inside our body and inside our cells. And energy healing is the process of clearing that energy. So what happens is that we come into this life and we have life experiences as a child, as a adult growing up. We have life experiences. those life experiences, when we're young, we absorb a lot of information, a lot of those experiences. Those experiences might include information we heard in the space, information that was felt in the space growing up, whether that's the family system or the school system or whatever systems we're raised in. And we start to absorb a lot of information in the cells of our body and in our energy body. And that information leaves an imprint inside us. It is the impression that is left in our system. That information helps us form and bond and attach and belong in the system, so that we know how to survive in the world. Well, sometimes in earlier years, we might have absorbed and bonded and adopted within us information that was relevant to existing at that time. Sometimes those are subconscious fears that we carry. And then what happens is we will end up growing and evolving, and that energy that we've absorbed down to the nucleus of the cell no longer serves us. What that means is that we've outgrown it. The times have changed, generations have changed, life has moved on, and we're holding on to old imprints and life experiences. Sometimes those life experiences are things like, something somebody said that hurt or stung, or an experience, an accident that happened, or something that, created a particular trauma in the body. And at that time, it's almost as if our cells take a snapshot, or our energy system takes a snapshot of that experience and stores it for later, stores it for a time when our brain is more developed, when we're more mature, when we have more resources, we have more life experience, and we can, at that point, go back and process what that experience was, or what that energy is that we're holding. So what happens here, and I'll get to the mental health component just to give you a little more context, is that in the energetic system, we have an energetic anatomy. We don't talk about this in school. It's not something that's we're raised with unless you seek out that type of education, whether it's the Chinese medicine system or the Ayurvedic system or the Dantian system. There's different Eastern systems that would teach the energetics in the body. Massage therapy might also teach it. But we have an energetic anatomy that underlays and interweaves with the nervous system. It underlays the physical anatomy, and you can't see it. It's perceived, but we feel it through blockages. We feel it through sometimes overwhelm and stress, or we can feel it through emotions or sensations. So, for example, the heart is part of the energetic system, not the physical heart, but the energetic heart. And we can feel anxiety, or we can feel stress. Sometimes we feel in the gut, intuition. It's not, there's a lot of organs in the gut, so we can't always define exactly which one, but this particular area of the body carries a lot of potent energy that might translate as stress or overwhelm in the body. At least it can hold a lot of that. So what happens here within our childhood growth and evolution is that our system holds energetic experiences. We might, again, absorb what we've been taught, what we learned, what other people think and feel. We might absorb the energy of others, the belief systems of others, and we hold all of that in our energetic body. We might also have had a very challenging experience. Maybe there was a loss very early on, and there wasn't exactly the teachings or the permission to grieve to the level that grief needed to happen. And so the grief gets stored in the body. And what happens in the energy system is that when energy is within the energetic anatomy and doesn't necessarily get processed, then it moves into the cells of the body, and then the cells take form, which can evolve into physical conditions, into emotional issues and imbalances in the body. And that's ultimately, oftentimes, the imbalances is what mental health is based around. It's based on where the imbalances are in our system. That's my terminology. That's not necessarily what is taught within, psychotherapy in particular. They're looking at diagnoses and conditions. But from an energetic perspective, what that really means is that there is consciousness, there is energy in an area of the body, and that consciousness is carrying a particular quality of energy. And that might be emotional, that might be really old, that might be not your energy, it might be mom's energy, dad's energy. And we carry that very young in our system, and we grow up with it. So what happens in the energetic system from an energy healing perspective is that when energy is ready to be released, it becomes highly symptomatic. It can shake us. It can become mental racing thoughts. It can become stress in the body. It can become inflammation. It can become anxiety. It also can become depression. And when I say it's energy that's ready to be released, I know that doesn't always feel that way. But why I'm saying it that way is because underneath it is our soul. And our soul is guiding us on our life, in our world. It's guiding us on our path. And when it's guiding us from within, it literally is an expansion that bumps up against the wounds, and it pushes the wounds. It triggers the wounds. It activates the wounds. And so sometimes when we're on the healing journey, the wounds start to surface. And sometimes it feels like this is crises, or this gets worse before it gets better, or it gets worse and I need help. And that's when we start to seek out something, it's now at the surface. Ultimately, that deep component of wounds, belief systems, patterns that were energetic early on have now moved to the surface, and they're very present. They're very much on the surface, which means they're very much in our consciousness. And that's when we might seek out, some type of services and support to help heal, to transform or manage life, get through life. And I'll just add as a side note that being in the world with our wounds at the surface is a filter. We see everything through that wound. We see everything through the activation of that particular, profile that's at the surface of our body. And that could be trauma. It could be a lot of wounds in the system. And it does make it hard to manage our existence because it's not super clear between the center and our life experience on the other side. We've got some layers to work with and layers to process. So therapy is, and I will say I'm a big proponent of therapy. I'm a big proponent of all kinds of therapeutic support, and ranging from alternative all the way to sometimes medication that people need. I think everyone, we have to meet people where they're at on their journey. So to me, there's never one is right over the other. We evolve, and we might need different things along the way, different processes and techniques and methods to work with along the way. But we also live in a world where there's a lot available to us to be able to make those choices. So from a therapeutic perspective, traditionally, we talk through those layers. So the layers that are now at the surface are requiring us to talk through the story and the journey that has roots in our childhood. And that's and sort of to get to the root of what might be why symptoms are activated. Again, why that, whether that's, anxiety or depression or OCD or eating disorders or whatever it might be. We're trying to get to the root of, the therapists are trying to get to the root consciousness and understanding. From my opinion, this is coming from a lot of experience in working with clients. Therapy is energy healing too, in that someone being able to talk through the process and be able to connect the dots to the story that's living in their body is about shifting consciousness. And energy healing is about shifting consciousness. It's about shifting the consciousness of the cells of the body and what we're holding. So we can get there through therapy. Where it gets a little tricky is that if therapy stays in the head and we're talking through the story here, then we're missing some vital shifting that might be going on a little deeper in the body. So this is where energy healing comes in, help and a very beneficial. Energy healing, again, it's about shifting the consciousness in the body. But to do that, there are some primary tools, very accessible tools to you every day. They are your breath, your awareness, and your intention. So those three tools are needed to shift energy in the body. This can happen through therapy, provided the therapist integrates these into the practice, but it's absolutely a part of energy healing. And what that means is that my breath, I'll use first person example here. My breath, I breathe automatically. We all breathe automatically. We do to live. So we can breathe unconsciously in that way, just automatic breathing. But when we breathe an intention into the breath with the intention to guide it to where in our body we feel a stuckness, a block, an emotion, then we're infusing intention to that breath as a tool for clearing the energy. And what we're doing is we're using our awareness to be able to bring that breath into that area of the body. And we can start there. The inhale guides air into the body, and we guide through our awareness where we want that breath to go. So I know, for example, there are no lungs in my knees, but my knee is out. It's not right now, but it's not at the moment, thankfully. But let's say it is. There's pain in my knee, and I might go to a physical doctor for that, but it's chronic. It keeps happening. And I've gotten 17 x-rays and blood, MRI. This isn't true for me, but here's the story, whatever. And they can't explain anything. So here I am breathing into my knee. Now there's no lungs in my knee, but with breath and awareness and intention, I can guide my breath into my knee and set the intention here that in this area of my body, I am clearing any stuck energy, conscious or subconscious, known or unknown. I'm breathing into it. And on my exhale, I'm letting that energy release down through the shin bone, through the soles of the feet, the sole of that foot, into the earth. I'm letting it go. I'm breathing into it. I'm exhaling and releasing it. And I'm letting it go. And then let's say, as I do that, an awareness comes. I'm starting to feel this time period where there was such tremendous fear about making major steps forward in my life. And I remember feeling completely frozen at that time period in my life. I was stuck. I was frozen. There was no one to help me in that moment. No one understood what I was going through. And that awareness starts to come. So I start to breathe through that awareness. And I exhale from my knee down, and I keep breathing through. Now I've gone from the pain, processing just what the pain is, to now breathing into the emotional component, the frozen, the fear, the grief, maybe that no one was there. I'm starting to breathe through the emotional component. And then all of a sudden, my knee wants to move back and forth a little bit. And so I'm starting to get some mobility. I'm moving from frozen to mobility. I'm getting some mobility in this area. And as I exhale, I'm letting that energy start to move down through the shin bone, out the soles of the feet into the earth. And I'm starting to clear that energy. Now I can expand on that and say, I'm going to set a new intention. I'm going to breathe light into this knee. And I'm going to let it know that you are free. You are free, knee, to move. You are free to feel good. You are free of pain. And I'm going to breathe that into this area, and I'm going to make bigger movements with my knee and free it up. And then maybe I feel better. Maybe something has shifted in that area. Now, I've used the knee as an example here, but you can insert anything in the area, in the body, the heart. There can be the liver. There can be, the mind. There can be lower in the body, like the pelvic floor or the tailbone, areas we don't think of that house a great deal of old energy. It might be that we have to clear energy lower in the body so that our head stops doing all the work for us, and that we can start to ground ourselves more deeply and find a deeper seat for our soul in our body so that we can feel more integrated and grounded and centered. So this is a powerful way that energy healing can intercept with concepts like, what am I going to therapy for? I'm feeling emotional distress. I'm feeling just depression. I'm feeling like I'm going down the road of problem after problem after problem, layer upon layer, and I'm realizing I can't even get through the day without feeling shut down or overwhelmed or something else symptomatic in some way. Well, when we approach therapy and go into, if you go to a therapist, the part of the process is not just unraveling how you're feeling in present day, but how do we take that journey inward to get more deeper into the roots of what might be going on. Energy healing can really help that process of identifying where it lives in the body and how to start utilizing your breath, your awareness, and your intention to help clear that energy and move it down and out. Now, I'm just going to add aside, it goes deeper than that. And, my method is based on the chakra system and how we store energy in different areas of the body. That's a whole separate road that, to go down, and it's more information. I teach all about it in my energy healing and intuition training program. So if that's a route you want to go, I'll put the link in the notes below, but that is a whole road to go down in terms of understanding more about where we're holding energy in the body, why we're holding energy in certain areas of the body, and different methods and how to clear the energy in the body. But here, I want to back out for a second and just say that energy healing is very important. It's an important part of the process in personal development and in healing, simply because our soul is continuing to expand in this life. It wants more for us. It wants us to live our potential. So it's going to continue to keep guiding us down our path. And if there are blocks to clear in the body, the soul is going to make the presence known about those blocks. So whether you go down the road of, therapeutic tools, body work, working with a therapist, or energy healing, just know that the issues are in the tissues, and that we do need to breathe through the body and where it's held in the body, and use our breath as a tool for clearing that energy with those three aspects I talked about: breath, awareness, and intention. Now, there are some areas that there is areas where energy healing and therapy intersect. And then there's areas where I would say this does need therapeutic support. While energy healing is always beneficial, there's more going on. So I'm just going to mention that when it comes to trauma in the body, what's interesting historically in energy healing is that energy healing has always worked with trauma. We've just never called it trauma. It's had other names. The names have been things like imprints, or they've been, we say shadow in the body, or it's been past life wounds or wounding in the system of the body. And it takes more skill to be able to work with trauma in the body, but there are stages of trauma that energy healing can be very beneficial for, particularly when we're working through stored experiences in the body where breath, awareness, and intention can be helpful and beneficial to guide into that area of where it might be held in the body and exhaling that energy down. Just simply the knowing of the individual that the soul doesn't have to live with the energy. We have a choice to be able to release it in itself can be very, very, very cathartic and very beneficial. In that case, you want to be working with a healer who understands how to work with that aspect of clearing work. So you want to work with someone who's very experienced. The areas where trauma is a little too, would really need to be in the care of a therapist is when you're working with, or you're experiencing multiple layers of complex trauma, PTSD, and different other layers of symptoms that might be happening in the body. Sometimes the layers are so complex that they need to be separated out and processed individually. And there are different tools for that. Energy healing can absolutely, again, you'd have to be working with an intuitive healer that does understand how to work with the different layers of life experiences or imprints in the body. That being said, a therapist who is trained in working with complexity of trauma is necessary. Personally, I have worked with energy healing in tandem with a therapist. So I would say not necessarily has it been always that the therapist and I connect, but that I'm saying to the client, I'm happy to support you as long as your therapist knows and as long as they're okay with it. And we're working, what I'm working with is in support of what they're working with, so that the client lets me know how it's going and I just continue, I work with what presents and I'm able to support the client in a way that is not going to disrupt or, create any further issues or anything like that for the client and certainly in their therapeutic process. So when there's acute stages of trauma, for example, an experience that somebody said something that left an imprint in the body that had the individual feeling insecure, that might be something on an energetic level an energy healer can work with, or you can breathe through this is not mine. I took this in, I absorbed it, I identified with it, but I'm releasing it with the breath, the awareness, and the intention. That might be more of an acute situation versus more of a chronic trauma situation that might need, again, more therapeutic support. But therapeutic support that applies energy healing with breath and awareness in the body can provide an immense amount of transformation and healing. So I'll also add here that there are some areas where I personally have my own boundaries. And when it comes to certain types of disorders, personality disorders, what therapy they might call access to type personality disorders. That's clinical narcissism, what used to be called borderline personality disorder. It's emotional dysregulation disorder now, DID. My take is that everybody can benefit from breathing into their own body and from bringing attention and awareness to their body. Where it crosses a line sometimes within therapy is around disorders, is when it comes to accountability and how much someone's willing to take responsibility for what they're holding inside their body and for their healing process. Sometimes that can't be, I'll say it this way. In energy healing and in my work, my experience is that someone who is I would say a diagnosed or clinical narcissist, for example, will not walk themselves into therapy and say, I'm ready to take responsibility. I need help. I did all of this. I'm owning it. That's not typical. And maybe someone, because narcissism is a spectrum, maybe someone who was raised with narcissistic parenting and recognizing that and identifying with some of those behaviors might, because it's not part of their true brain chemistry. But in the spiritual space, people with narcissism or disorders of sorts will walk in all the time. It is a place to escape personal responsibility. It's a place to say, I'm willing to stay in the love and light and, heal my stuff or work on the spiritual connection, but not necessarily go deeper. And so this is where I often will say, from an energy healing perspective, we have an ethical component, and that's that from an energy, I'm giving you a lot of information, from an energy healing perspective, we as healers need to be able to go beneath the belt. We need to be able to get down to those lower chakras and take responsibility for the history we carry and hold. We have to do that ourselves. And we have to be able to hold people accountable and know that most of the healing for people is first three chakras of their body. That's where a lot of history is held. That's actually the realm of therapy, whether they know that, therapists know that or not. In the history of the body, it's the first three chakras. When someone comes into the spiritual space and just wants to stay heart chakra upward, then we're doing a disservice. We're saying, oh, you know what? Shame is a part of healing and working with deep grief and the history and learning how to not make everyone else bad and wrong or project onto everyone else, what they're doing and how they made us feel this way, and becoming the victim in the relationship to quote unquote dark energy. It does a disservice to the individual. And in those cases, as an energy healing, in my perspective and opinion, we have to be willing to say, you know what, I am not going to be the right person because I need the client. I need to be able to work with people who are willing to take responsibility. And that's where, for example, that's a crossroads with therapy and psychotherapy, because ultimately, sometimes the traumas that live in people's bodies that are so deeply rooted in disorders are big. And there's a lot of protection around them, and there's a lot of shame around it. And there is a lot of process that needs to happen. And it might need to be a slower process, or it just needs to be its process. But what'll happen oftentimes in the spaces where we as energy healers might touch accidentally someone's wound without realizing it is the lash out or the backlash. And we as healers or someone approaching energy healing, we have to be willing to say, you know what, the wounds or the experience that I'm having, I own the root to that. I'm the one that has to take responsibility for how I feel. in this moment, I can't be blaming people outside of ourselves. And the healers have to be able to acknowledge that also. I can't be I can't be holding the responsibility for this individual who isn't willing to heal themselves or isn't willing to take responsibility. So one of the reasons I personally believe there is such a crossover within therapy and energy healing is that energy healing, again, is the invitation to go deeper. But in therapy, it holds us accountable. We have to be able to not hide. We have somebody there holding us accountable for the relational dynamics that we have in the world. And that's another reason why in the disorder realm, they can hide in energy healing because we can close our eyes and tune in and it can be about ourselves. And we don't always have to have relationships. But in therapy, we have to be relational. And so there really is this benefit to both. We need, in some cases, both are beneficial. Energy healing takes us deeper. Therapy can get stuck. Therapy can stay in the head in traditional therapy, unless the therapists are trained in some methods that apply energy healing techniques and tools. They might not always be called that. EMDR is an energy healing, believe it or not. It's not called that, but it invites us to go in and shift the consciousness of the cells. So there's therapies that work, and then there's energy healing that works and takes us deeper. It's just that the intersections of them require in healing work, the difference of knowing, when do I need to work through this in a therapeutic capacity? And when do I need to go deeper into deep energy healing? So obviously, I'm biased. I'm an intuitive healer, and that's my background and my experience for 30 years now. So in my experience, energy healing is incredibly transformational because it considers the soul you came into this world with, your mission, your purpose, why you're here, your bigger why, and that you have a lot of infinite potential inside yourself that needs to emerge, that your soul knows is meant for this world. But what you're working through and why the issues come to the surface is that you're battling another consciousness inside you, which is the ego. And the ego carries all of that conditioning, all of the beliefs, the behaviors, the imprints you took in, the family history, the intergenerational energy, all of that is held within the ego. And the emotions, unprocessed emotions. And so I can speak to the energy healing component, which is that from that place of bringing our breath and our awareness to the density, to the thick, to the layers that we are holding and carrying, and unpacking those layers can help us release the ego, the conditioning that no longer serves us, so that more of our soul light can shine in our body, through our body, and through our life. Ultimately, what that benefits is our mental health and our emotional health and well-being, and our physical health and well-being, maybe even our spiritual and our energetic and spiritual health and well-being. A lot of issues that are sought out for therapy have roots in energy healing. And those issues I named them earlier: anxiety and depression. And by no means is energy healing a replacement, but a consideration. And that's that anxiety, for example. I mean, there are many reasons why anxiety happens, ranging from chemical imbalance to nutrition, to issues that have been unprocessed, to our intuition, meaning our body's trying to tell us something, and our soul is trying to get our attention for us to listen, because maybe there's some major life changes we need to make that we're not making. And so it's giving us the signals through anxiety. That's not the answer. It's a perspective to consider. So sometimes when we're seeking out support for anxiety, and there's a difference between, acute anxiety and anxiety disorders, really chronic long anxiety that might need deeper healing work. Sometimes looking at it from an energy body perspective of how much accumulation am I holding on in the whole energetic anatomy of my body that my heart can't handle anymore. And it's not just in my heart, it's lower. It's the stress of not being able to be myself. It's the suppression of my gift. It's the accumulation of toxic energy that I was raised in, or whatever it might be. We have to be able to explore the energy we're holding, again, beneath the belt, because the symptoms, whether I gave anxiety as an example, it could be depression, those symptoms have deeper roots that are energetic, and our conscious memory and our mind might not be able to access the full roots of them, because sometimes it's energy we came into this world with. So in energy healing, we are not going through the frontal lobe of the brain. We are going through deeper states of meditation, closing our eyes, we're tuning in, we're breathing, we're bringing awareness and intention to areas of our body, and we're letting the energy unfold. We're letting the story unfold. We're letting the energy release. We're letting it move out of our body. We're giving it an exit. And I always use the imagery of the grounding cord, sending it down into the earth. So this is a powerful way in which energy healing can help with what might be considered mental health issues. Again, what might be considered mental health is oftentimes deep energetic experiences that are pushing symptoms to the surface. And we have to go in and explore what those are. I'm giving the energy healing approach. Therapy can get there too, provided it doesn't just stay in the mind, provided it does apply deeper states of awareness, sometimes meditation and breathing and awareness and intention into the body, locating where it lives in the body and giving it an exit. So these are ways in which energy healing can support anyone in a mental health situation, and help align the body and the mind and the spirit. And again, if something is beyond what is more of an extreme case or situation, and mental health services are absolutely needed, please seek that out. This is not a replacement for mental health services in any way or any capacity. That may be something that's absolutely appropriate. And the only last thing I want to leave on is that, and it's a big one to even leave on it, but I get this question often: can I do energy healing if I'm on medication? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Anybody can breathe into their body with breath, with intention and awareness to clear energy in their body. There is no shame around taking medication if it's what your body needs. If we are in a crisis state and medication is available, and it's the decision that needs to be made to be able to take us out of crises, to be able to go to the deeper layers, then that might be what's needed. Sometimes when we're in inflammation and crises, we can't get deeper. So that it might be one reason why medication, it can be beneficial. I work with a lot of people who over the years, it becomes a very conscious struggle. Do I take this route or do I not take this route? So I'm just hoping that what I'm sharing about medication allows you to take the shame out of it, to be able to say, okay, I've got some conscious choices and I know I can heal either way, with it or without it. So obviously, they're big choices to make, but I just want you to know from my perspective that energy healing is absolutely still possible. Healing is still possible in the body, and your intention is powerful. So if you're willing to say, I'm willing to heal within my body, and no matter what, whether I'm on a medication or not, I'm willing to heal because my soul is that strong and I'm that aligned and I'm willing to live my infinite potential in this life, then absolutely, so be it. And it will be. That's your intention. So breathe that into your body. And again, you can continue to clear anything that's held in anywhere in your system. My only last 2 cents is just breathe lower in the body. A lot of the history is lower than we think, lower than the heart. So I hope this supports you. I hope it gave you a lot to think about, and kind of direction to go. Again, I'm Wendy De Rosa. Thank you for being here. And by all means, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel or write a review for the podcast, write a review below. It really helps people find this information. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.